Hey sightseers, Sightseeing Sally here. I'm with Marty and the pups. We're over in Kansas now, driving up Route 69. Get your mind out of the gutter, Marty.
What? You mean allegedly?
Anyways, I saw on the map that there are a number of small towns up this way going north. I thought, what a great day to go check it out, see what we can find. Seems we've already lost the highway.
Street, northeast old highway 96. Then turn left onto northeast old highway 96.
The map reader wasn't reading the map correctly. And I thought the road going north was 69, and apparently it turns into Highway 7 along the way, so we ended up on the wrong route, but thankfully Marty figured it out. Does this mean he's gonna fire his co-pilot? I don't know, stay tuned.
Is it lunchtime yet?
Is that all you're worried about, is eating? Why does it smell like a skunk over here?
Since there's about 8 of them dead in the road that I've seen already.
Yeah, I've never seen so many dead skunks before. There must be more of them down here than there are up north by us. Well, look at this. We were driving around, basically stumbling around out in the middle of nowhere, and came across this hidden gem. According to the sign, we're in Corona, Kansas, and this is the Heart of the Heartlands Train Depot Museum. Unfortunately, as you see, it's closed. Wah, wah, wah. It's the second wah, wah today. But that's okay, we're just admiring the attractions here from the road. You've got back there some miniature train depots set up. This huge steam locomotive with what I assume to be its little caboose. I'm sure Marty knows. I'll have to ask him when I get back over by the truck. Oh, there's Marty. I won't have to walk all the way back to the truck. I wanted to ask you, is that a caboose back there at the, attached to the steam locomotive? Is that a caboose?
No.
Oh, okay, I got that wrong.
It's the coal tender or a coal car or fuel oil, whatever they're feeding that locomotive.
Okay.
To me, it looks like it might be a tank, so it might be for fuel oil. You probably used to burn coal as a locomotive, then they converted it over to fuel oil or something on that nature.
What's this pole thingy?
That's actually a signal, like the stop ahead or intersection or a switch or something. It's just a signal to tell them something down the line as they pass them. I've seen them turned on and I've seen them turned off over the years, but exactly what they mean is probably exactly where they're placed. It's just kind of like a stop sign for trains. So you got one of my little favorite cars over there, a speeder. Just think we could be in Southern California right now, riding the rails, cruising way back, what is that canyon in Southern California that we always wanted to see, Copper Canyon.
You talking the one over by Jacumba Hot Springs?
Yes, where we seen the naked people when we were looking at them cars that are back in the corner over here, them observation cars that they had abandoned. Yeah, the naked people. Apparently if you go further down the rails with that, there's huge wooden trestles and tunnels, and it's a place actually I'd like to get out to, but because of my health, I can't walk out that far anymore. Heck, I can't even walk 20 feet from the truck, but...
Yeah, that's like a 7-mile hike one
Yeah.
way, I think, so it would just be a bit out of your range.
Yeah, my health, no. I'm winded walking from the truck over here, so...
Well, not only that, if something would happen, that's a long way to be out.
Or an expensive ride in a helicopter.
Well, that too. We're gonna move along because there are a few other things I wanted to point out from a different angle than over here because you can't see them as well. We started out on Route 69. I thought it went all the way north, but found out that it jutted off and went a different way, and we ended up in the middle of nowhere, didn't know where we were at, got turned around, and now we're making our way up 7. And Marty keeps seeing the sign for Big Brutus. He wants to check that out. And then we turned and then found this. So we're just kind of now flying by the seat of our pants out in the middle of nowhere here in southeastern Kansas.
Some of the best finds aren't on a map.
That's right, and some of our best videos have actually been ones that we've done off the cuff with no prior planning, surprisingly. Anyways, you can see that this train depot museum is set up right along the tracks, which Marty said are still active. How he knows that, I don't know. Let's ask him and see what he has to say.
How do I know that? Look at the tracks here. See how it's shined up? It's from the wheels running on it. You have to come across here quite a bit to make that shiny. It's all rusty on this side where the wheels run on the inside. You can see that shiny mark.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. Too bad we didn't have a penny we place on the tracks and then hang around and wait and see what happens.
Wait for the law to show up and arrest us. Think that we're doing something to the tracks.
Oh, is that what they would think?
Probably.
We don't want that. Before we move on, I'll just point out that they've got a couple of old railroad crossing signal signs over there. This little, Marty called it a yard donkey or yard locomotive used for moving cars around the yards. And then off in the distance you can see that they have some other train cars down there that look really interesting. It's too bad we missed out, but hey, what can you do? It is winter. It's likely considered not tourist season over here. And it is during the middle of the week, so maybe they have weekend hours that we just don't know about. Let's move on, because I'm sure there's more interesting things that we can find out here in the middle of nowhere, Kansas. The old Parita over at the corner of 20th and Highway 102. I wonder what it used to be and what it's being used for now. The old car and the still definitely piqued my interest. Moving on. I thought that old still was really cool.
I think that was like something for a mill.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I mean, it looked like a still, especially because there was that old rusty car sitting there that kind of reminded me of, you know, back when the gangsters, the John Dillingers, Al Capones were running bootleg liquor around. That's what I thought. That's why I thought it was one of them.
You always see them on like mills or places that do woodworking that has something to do with maybe catching dust or something. I really didn't look at it. That's what I think it is from the glance I got.
Wonder if anybody knows out there. If you do, you know what to do. You can tell we're in the middle of America's heartland where all the farming is done because of the grain elevators that you see everywhere. Well, look at this. We've stumbled upon another point of interest, a Kansas landmark. According to this old sign, during the territorial days between the years of 1854 and 1861, 3 principal avenues of travel and commerce passed within a half mile of this point. During the early 1850s, there was a government road that ran from Humboldt, Kansas to Fort Gibson, Oklahoma, that passed just north of here. There was also the Texas Cattle Trail that passed just west of here. And then last but not least, there was an ancient Indian trail leading to their hunting grounds in Oklahoma, where they hunted buffalo. that came through this area. It crossed the river at a ford where the Oswego waterworks are now located. Amazing, the history you can learn. And all because we stopped at this roadside park to let out the dogs. We're gonna head over into town. Oswego, I think, is how you pronounce it. I went into their library and asked, but for some reason it doesn't want to stick in my brain. It's kind of like, is it Oswego or Oswego? Where do you put the emphasis? On the last syllable or what? At least that's what's going on in my brain right now. Anyways, as luck would have it, it appears we've stumbled upon an old log cabin. There's a stone marker. Let's go see what it says. It says, Thomas Park. This log house, built in 1867, and the land were given our city by Mrs. Nellie B. Thomas as a memorial to her late husband, Dr. J.F. Thomas, and son, Donald Thomas. And it appears it's owned by the Historical Society, and if you want to visit inside, there's a phone number you can call. I always think of Little House on the Prairie when I see a log cabin like this. Coincidentally, I don't think we're too far from some of the places that Laura Ingalls Wilder was known to have lived in or near. I don't know if we'll get to visit any of those places on this trip, but I just thought I'd mention that. Interestingly enough, their library is a Carnegie library. Built in 1912, Carnegie donated $5,000 or $6,000, and then the rest was raised by the people of the town. Now, if you're wondering where Oswego's first settler had his home and trading post, you'll find a landmark marking it right here. On this very spot, John A. Matthews ran his trading post and lived from 1841 all the way up until September 19th of 1861, when he was killed and his settlement burned by Union soldiers from Fort Scott, Kansas. Can you hear that, sightseers? When was the last time you heard music from a candy truck? Or the ice cream truck, I mean. Candy, ice cream, I don't know. I'm all excited because I haven't heard that sound since I was a kid. I'm surprised Marty didn't come bursting out of the truck, running for the candy man, and got a snack, because he could hear it before anybody else when we were blocks away. Anyways, not to digress, but there is also another historical marker here for the Little Town Well. Now, the Little Town Well was originally dug by John A. Matthews. There was a spring, and to make it more accessible, he dug and then walled off a well, leading to the structure that you see here today. The rest of the historical marker talks about how when John A. Matthews came here, he served as a blacksmith, traded with the Native Americans that were here. You know, gives a little backstory as to the history of this town. A couple more things I want to show you, and then we're going to move on, because as lovely as this town is, we're going to eventually run out of daylight, and that's no fun. You can see Marty checking out their old theater where they're advertising the Ball and Claw antique auction. What's going on through your mind right now?
That upper sign, I wouldn't mind putting neon on it, hanging on the wall in the garage. I think it'd be cool.
Yeah, it would be cool. I'm pointing this out because this is something I have never seen before. And that is parking spots in the middle of the roadway. Don't laugh, sightseers. I think this is the first town I've ever been in where you can park right down the middle of the road. They have all these parking spots laid out. And for us, Never having seen that before, it was totally confusing. Like, what's going on here? Why are there vehicles stopped in the middle of the road? And then Marty figured it out and it was all good. I have to say, they have a lot of neat old buildings here and some really fascinating history to go along with it. Unfortunately though, we're running out of daylight and we must move on. I was told by several of the locals that there's a historical park that we must see. So that's what we're gonna go do next. We're gonna go check out that park and then that'll be it for today. We made it to Riverside Park. You can see in the background all the buildings that were built during Roosevelt's New Deal by the CCC, the Civilian Conservation Corps. These buildings date back to the 1930s. We'll take a closer look at some of those here in a minute, but first I want to show you something that I had talked about earlier when we first arrived in town. And that is this area just beyond the bluff down by the river where the Native Americans used to cross on their way to their buffalo hunting grounds by traveling that old ancient Indian trail. According to this sign, this point overlooks that spot. Looking at this, though you can barely read it, I was able to determine that the historic part of the park, roughly 17 acres or so, was placed on the National Register of Historic Places back in 2012. If I'm not mistaken, that would include the historic pool and its bathhouse, the various picnic shelters that were also built during that time period, maybe even that historical crossing. Well, that's all for today. Not bad for a little impromptu tour down Route 69 and then ending up here of all places. Stay tuned, there's more to come from this epic adventure as we've got many more states that we're going to be hitting up.
Oh boy, it's the Candy Man. I'm gonna get me some candy. Damn it.